All right, guys, we're back on the Next Level Agents podcast, and today I am joined by Andrew Anderson. Andrew, how's it going, man?
Awesome. Great day. I'm glad to get to spend some time with you, Kevin.
Me too. I'm excited to do this. We see you and I were introduced recently from a good friend of mine, Seth, and someone who I believe you've known for a long time as well, both kind of personally as well as in a coaching relationship. And he thought it'd be good for us to get to know each other, and he was probably right, as he normally is when he says stuff like that. And so got the chance to chat beforehand, and I'm excited to have this conversation a little more today. I just like it. I love the podcast format because I get to put people on the hot seat and ask all the questions that are normally mildly inappropriate for like a social situation where I get to just pepper people. So I'm excited for this.
Hey, I like the hot seat. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, why don't we start here, man? Tell the audience and I a little bit about yourself, maybe kind of what you do professionally, and I'll probably ask you a few questions as far as like how you got there, but give us the elevator speech, if you will, on who Andrew is and what you do.
Yeah. So I have 7 kids, Kevin. So we got to start there.
So
With
there's two full-time jobs.
yeah, so I got 7 kids with 2 wives. I don't live in Utah. I live in Idaho, so I'm not married to both of those women. I'm not even with both of them. That's two separate marriages that brought me these 7 children.
Good job on the clarification there. You're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
have
right.
some listeners going, wait, what?
Yeah, 2 wives. What kind of an interview is this going to be? So yeah, I've been blessed to be married twice, and I have 7 incredible children. And what I do professionally is provides the life that we get to live. And so as a professional, I'm an author and a coach and a speaker, and I get to help people break through all the stuff that prevents them from achieving what they really want to achieve. And whether it's reading my book or hearing me speak or getting to do some one-on-one coaching, or that's what I get to be passionate about, to provide for my family.
Awesome. How did you I'm always curious about this. Like, how did you end up as a coach? How did you find yourself coaching people?
Yeah, well, I applied for this job. No, no one ever says that when they become a coach.
Right.
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, I was a teacher. I'd been teaching for 6 years, and I just finished my master's degree. And I was going through my separation that turned into a divorce, living in my parents' basement, right? 28 years old, just starting over. And someone's recommended real estate. And so I got into real estate, and I didn't even know that coaching was a thing. And I got my first real estate coach. And after selling real estate for a year, I was offered a position to start coaching. And so for the last, 9 years, I've been able to coach and grow from that position at that brokerage to what I do now individually.
So I'm curious, what was it about real estate that made you pursue that after teaching?
Well, I just thought that living in your parents' basement and having a broken heart and working 100% commission would be a good idea. Um,
Just sounded like the fun way to go.
yeah, like let's go knock on doors and like not make money for months on end. But I actually sat down with my brother, and he's a consultant, and he helped me identify all the things that I loved about teaching and what I didn't love. And he said, I think this real estate thing could really work out for you. And that's how I was introduced to the idea of jumping into real estate.
Interesting. So did you just say that after a year is when you were you like the office, like a productivity coach in the office? Is that kind of
Well,
where that went?
yeah, so I sold for a year, and I loved everything about it except for I don't care much, for houses. I could live in the mountains and be fine. And then buyers and sellers drove me nuts, and agents, like, so I liked prospecting and helping people and negotiating, making money, and just the transactional aspect of it wasn't the thing that really lit me up. And so I was offered to start, yeah, in a productivity coaching position. And the CEO of our brokerage saw something in me that I didn't see in me, and she was right. And I'm very grateful that she saw that.
So what was that like for you transitioning in, going from sort of being the doer, being the real estate agent, creating the deals and then actually doing them to then trying to help others do that? How was that adjustment for you?
Well, there's when we level up into any opportunity, there's some imposter syndrome, right? That we have, like, and people would say, "You only sold real estate for a year. What gives you the right?" I said, "She gives me the right." And it was Stacy States, and I said, "She believes in me." And I didn't actually say that. I had a lot more confidence, and
Stacy's pretty
but
smart though.
yeah,
So
she is.
if
She
she
is.
says something, you can lean on that if you need to.
Yeah, yeah, but it was challenging at first, and I was putting my life back together. I was still living in my parents' basement when I started coaching, so it was a challenge for sure.
Did did you like coaching right away? Like did you take to it right away, or was there an adjustment period? What was that like for you?
No, I did. I loved it right away because I'm like, hey, these aren't teenagers, and they're paying me, so that was fun. Like they actually valued and wanted my help, and that I think I've always been coaching. I just didn't know it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how long did it take you to realize you were good at it? Because if I remember correctly, I haven't had a chance to read your book all the way
Mhm.
yet, but I did get a chance to start on it. And
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, you had built a pretty big um, productivity coaching for no one who know for the listeners that have not been with KW, and if you don't know what that is, that's effectively a coach inside the office, mostly. And you can correct me
Yeah.
where need be here, Andrew. At least for your situation, mostly kind of like new agents come in. I would hesitate to call it a mentorship program, but something similar to that for newer agents, basically to help them get their business started and going, kind of even hold their hand a little bit of the way through until they get some momentum. And the thing about it is, there's like 800 Keller Williams offices, and I'm a former owner of one as well as a regional
Mhm.
director. This program failed at the highest of high levels. Like it's failed in basically 800 out of 800 offices. It's got a very low success rate. So when I hear someone who's actually built one that did well, my ears always perk up because it's a hard thing to do.
Mhm. So, we started off, I was on salary. And
Interesting.
if you were to hear how much I was making, you'd laugh. And after I was on salary for a year and I learned that, hey, I could make money based on whether or not these agents I'm helping make money, I quickly said, I want to drop my salary and I want to get paid off of their commissions. And so in that first year, I doubled my salary, right? Because I was making commissions and we grew this program. I mean, and we had to sell it as, hey, coaching's always been free. And now you're going to pay us a percentage. And that's the risk that I took. And I said, we're going to do it. They're going to have skin in the game. And we built it. And I had 3 coaches underneath me at one point. We had an executive assistant and a virtual assistant. And we had 116 agents in that program. And
Wow.
my salary just kept doubling. And I, I just helped more people and made more money. I thought this is a great job.
Yeah. Like I really want to emphasize that to the listener as we're kind of building up the story of for
Mhm.
like your journey in coaching.
Yeah.
I didn't say that like I wasn't being trite. Like this program has failed, and literally like 100% of the locations, and with very few exceptions, does it get going. And you hear stories like this, and you do hear some stories like this, but it's not a lot. And so how long did you end up staying in that role, and at what point did you realize, hey, I could go coach real estate agents not just associated or affiliated with my brokerage?
Whoa, I started actually doing that sooner than later. I was recruiting agents outside of Keller Williams and I said, I'll coach you. I just want to help you. And the brokerage didn't care. They're like, great. I mean, that's good for us. So I actually had agents outside of Keller Williams that were part of our coaching program. And I wasn't trying to recruit them. They ended up sometimes becoming recruited just by the nature of the relationship. But I did that early on. And then I started coaching nationally for the KW Maps coaching program, and I did that for a year. So I'm 3 to 4 years into my coaching journey. I'm coaching nationally. I learned about transformational coaching, which is like all the stuff I love. Like, let's talk about your life and your mindset and your marriage and your divorce and all the stuff I'd been through and your kids and your health. And I learned how to help people transform their lives so that they could then, break through in their business. And so I
Yeah.
did that nationally for about a year. And then I had the opportunity to break out on my own. And I thought I'd rather keep 100% of the commissions of these people that I'm helping than splitting them with another team. And So for the last 5 years, I've been on my own.
Awesome. And so now what is your kind of coaching programs look like today? Is it mostly one-on-one? Do you do group coaching? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's twofold. I get to do deep dive breakthrough sessions with individuals for 5 hours at the beginning of their coaching journey.
Wow.
And uh, it's very, very common that someone will cry with me in the first 15 seconds of talking. And I'll go home and my wife will say, "How many women did you make cry today?" And I'll tell her. And then if I can get a man, it's bonus points. So, I mean, like we get down to the stuff that no one else really talks about. And when we can let go of all that unconscious baggage of limiting beliefs and negative emotions and create new neural pathways in your brain as to what's possible for you, then goals change. And most coaches aren't able to actually help people with baggage. And so what happens is the coach isn't good enough in the eyes of the client, or the client thinks I'm not good enough for this coach. So I have this incredible, just superpower that I learned from NLP and mental emotional release. And Dr. Matt James trained me personally, and we get to just clear everything so we can set goals that people truly are passionate about and believe in. So that's what we do. We do that at the beginning. And then we spend a year, and that year turns into 2, 3, 4. I've got clients that have been with me for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And we do the one-on-one. And I'm also now expanding with the book, and I'm doing group coaching opportunities so that we can reach more and more people.
How often, you've coached a lot of people now over
Mhm.
the years. How often is it, and I'm not looking for an exact number, but
Yeah.
ballpark in your guess of someone comes in, they need coaching. How
Yeah.
often is it, do they need coaching where it's, I'll call it skill based versus like between the years? Like
Yeah.
if you had to guess, what's that ratio?
Right. 99%. and and that's
99% towards
because
in
right.
between the
And
years?
now, yeah, and I'm not working with brand new agents anymore. So, I take someone and they're making six figures once, twice, three, four times, and they either want to double that, right? They want to go from 100 to 2 to 2 to 4 to 4 to 8, 8 to 1 point, whatever it is. They either want to get the next level, or they've been so successful in their business that there's something else in their life that isn't following suit, and they don't know why. How come I can be so good in this area and this one is just shit? I mean, like, I don't use that word ever, but like they don't know why. And they've talked to counselors and therapists and coaches, and then someone says, "Hey, you should just talk to Andrew." And they're like, "Fine."
Kind of like fine, whatever
Yeah.
helps, I'll do it. Is there like, I would agree, i- i- just based on the people I've spoken to and my experiences
Mm-hmm.
personally as well. Um, what is there like a common theme that you see that's maybe holding people back? I know everyone's to a degree different, but we're also all not that different. And so I'm curious, like what kind of themes and trends and patterns do you see pop up with people who are they're very skilled, they know how to go out and make money, but they're unfulfilled, like they're not getting
Yeah.
to that next level or whatever? What are some of the common things that you see pop up?
Here's the common theme. It is the theme. And the listeners, I'm sorry, they're not going to like this because you hear it so often. The common theme always comes back to worthiness. It comes back to personal individual belief in their value as a human being, as a father, as a mother, as a son, as a daughter, as a friend. And they've become so successful because they have been trying to prove their worth in society or whatever area that they're in. And then they realize that that success did not prove anything. And they still feel the same way they've always felt. And they give up. They've tried to take their life. They've been through relationships. They've gone through the drugs, the alcohol, the sex, like the food, the whatever it is, and they haven't been able to find it. That's the common theme. It's worthiness. It's personal, individual value of the soul.
And how do you I mean, I gotta be honest, like that sounds heavy.
It
Like
is so heavy.
that's
Yes.
like that's heavy to take on. It's one thing, I think we can all, I think most people have experienced really supporting a close friend or family member, or even a few times, or a few different people. But when you do that professionally, consistently, kind of day in and day out, like that's kind of heavy. I'm curious, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you make sure that stuff, you kind of the heaviness, if you will, of your clients, doesn't kind of, I guess, wear off on you, rub off on you?
Yeah. Have you ever met these ultra marathoners?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you
I've
look
met
at
a
these
few.
people and you're just like, you're crazy. Well, at one time in their life, they weren't a runner. Like they didn't ever run. And there was a time in my life where I didn't help people. And as a teenager, I started building friendships and attracting like girls that had been through challenges with boys, like taken advantage of, or talked into doing things sexually that they didn't want to, or they were date raped, or they got drunk, or like these girls would start coming to me and just confiding in me. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was building this ability to coach and help people. So then from a teenager, I went and I served a 2-year mission for my church. And I'm now in a different country, speaking a different language, teaching people about Jesus. And then I go into the classroom, I'm helping teenagers. And now you can see why real estate wasn't that sexy for me. And so I've been doing this my whole life. And so then to go from that real estate into a coaching capacity, I have just built this, it's a God-given strength that I can turn it off when I go home and I can be present with my wife and kids. And it's very rare that someone shares something that is so moving. I feel like an ER doctor sometimes. Like, ER doctors save lives all day and they go home and it's like, how's work, honey? Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
They don't say, yeah,
Like
I
another day at the
pulled this,
office.
yeah, I pulled this screwdriver out of someone's head and saved his life. And it's not that we become immune. You have this self-reliance and this emotional strength that you're okay.
Yeah. Just cause sort of becomes part of the job, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cool. So, tell me, so you mentioned earlier being an author as well, best-selling author.
Mhm.
What I gotta know, what possessed you to write a book? There for most people, they tend to be such a labor of love and pain. And so I'm curious, what was it that I guess spoke to you about writing a book,
I
and what
like
was
the
that like
word
for you?
I like the word possessed, Kevin, because that has such an evil connotation to it. Right? When I finished my master's degree in education, I said I will never write anything ever again because I was so tired of writing papers and a thesis, and so it literally did take an act of God. Like it wasn't like I was possessed, but I had a very strong experience standing in the Virgin River of Zion National Park. Have you ever been to Zion in southern Utah, Kevin?
No, not yet. It's on my list.
Oh my gosh, you got to go. It's the most beautiful red rock. You look up and it's just like it looks like miles, but it's a couple 100 feet of just sheer beautiful red rock canyon. And I'm standing there and I have this moment where I'm just experiencing the awe of nature and it's just hitting me and I'm getting emotional and I'm like crying, looking at this rock, feeling of the majesty of creation. And in that moment, the thought came into my mind, heart, voice, spirit. I don't know what it was, vision. I was not hallucinating or on drugs, but there was this moment where the words came into my mind, Andrew, this is a rock and you are my son. And if you feel this way with a rock, imagine what others will be able to feel when you step into your greatness and fulfill the measure of your creation. And now I'm bawling. Okay, not one tear because this is a pretty rock, like all the tears because I realize that there is more for me to do than just coach people in real estate. And then immediately the name and title of the book, Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow, came into my mind. And I knew I was called that there was a book that had to be written. I had no idea what it was going to be about or that I would be doing a podcast with some guy named Kevin someday. I didn't know any of this. I just knew I needed to write the book because it was a calling, something that I could not deny.
So did you start writing it right away?
There were 2 book ideas that came to my mind. The other one I won't tell you about because it will probably be released sometime in the next few years. But there was a second book idea that I started working on and I got nowhere with. And then I just went months and I'm like, This is dumb. I hate writing. And then I was listening to some podcast from some great person in the real estate industry. And I had the thought, you need to stop being a consumer. You know all the stuff that this guy is sharing. Stop being a consumer and become a producer. Write the dang book. And that day I said, fine, I'm no longer going to listen to someone else until I have produced something that I can share.
And then what from there was that like how long like give me an idea. Like did you write daily? Did this take you months? Did it take you years from that point? What was that like?
Yeah, the writing process, I started in May of 2021, and I had a goal to have 50,000 words on the page by Christmas. And then when Christmas came and I had 50,000 words, I was like, oh, I'm done. And I just didn't touch it for like 3 months because artists talk about this, like they create something and then they hate it. They're like, oh, so I sent it to my coach and he read it and he said it was awesome. And I'm like, okay. And I let it sit for a while and I started working on another business idea. And then that business idea kind of came to a halt. And I realized I wrote a book. I should probably get it published. And I thought I was just going to like self-publish on Amazon. And then I met a great writing coach and a publisher and an editor and just all the right people at the right time came into my world. And then about 6 months after that, I had a completely different book than I had written the first time. And it was ready to go, by the fall of 2022. And then we released it the end of January of this year, 2023.
Awesome. What I gotta imagine you probably learned a lot in that process. So, and you referenced the fact you got another book idea already ready to go. And
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine your experience now having done one is gonna influence greatly how you do the second. What were like the big surprises, or what do you think you'll do different for the second book that that you didn't, that would be different from the first one?
One of my great mentors, Rory Vaden, said that entrepreneurs often do the right things in the wrong order. Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah.
The right things in the wrong order. And that's what I did. I mean, I wrote a book. I then found a writing coach. I then found an editor and a publisher, and I didn't even know like who was going to read it. So what I would do differently, which is what I'm doing in all my business, is I'm identifying what I have and the need, right? Because that's what a brand is. It's what the needs that we can fill with what we offer. So I'm identifying these needs that are in the marketplace, in the world, and I'm looking at my skill set and identifying, okay, of all these needs, right? Because I think I'm Tony Robbins. I can help anyone with anything. But I can't say that yet because I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm Andrew. And I get to identify these needs in the marketplace. And now I'm going to identify my message and what I can do. Then I'm going to write to that thing, not everything I've ever learned about coaching in one book. We're going to narrow that focus. And then I'm going to do the right things in the right order this time. And rather than creating chaos and cleaning up as I went.
Man, I think that is so true for most things.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the right things in the right order, focusing, kind of narrowing in. Like those are some kind of just key lessons in life and in business in general. It doesn't have to pertain to writing a book. So, but it's funny to hear like that's your takeaway in those lessons, because I think it is so universal. Those are very universal lessons.
Well, and we don't know any different. Like, no one taught me how to walk. My parents just smiled a lot and got really happy and cheered me on. But no, I didn't know how to write a book. And that's why coaching and mentoring and having consultants and people around you that have been there before, you get to learn from their mistakes. And now I love when people come to me and say, hey, I've got this book idea. I'm like, great. You need to talk to so and so and so and so. And these are the things that you need to do because we can shortcut ourselves to success by not making the mistakes that others have made. And as coaches, we get to do that, right? We get to say, hey, other people have done what you're doing. And let's figure out how we can make this as least of a painful process as possible.
Awesome. What going back to the book, first of all,
Mhm.
the subtitles, How to Find Courage and Compassion in a Turbulent World. Where did that come from? And what was I guess, the word I'm looking for, um, motivation behind that.
Yeah, the motivation, the inspiration was the word that I was thinking of when you were looking for it. I knew the title, Oak and Willow, and I had a coach that told me, Andrew, you're very oak-like. Like you're strong, you're steady, you're committed, convicted, whatever you put your mind to, you're going to do. And sometimes that gets in the way and you need some more willow-like strength, like some flexibility, let things go through you, like just bend a little bit. You don't have to break, but just, and so I was thinking, okay, if this is the principle that we all have these complementary, they're not competing strengths, there's not one that's better than the other, but if we have these in us, what is one word that could sum up what the strength of the oak means to me? And I picked courage. And I picked it because the word courage comes from the French word cœur. And I know this because I speak French fluently. I'm not just making this stuff up. Cœur in French means heart, and courage means it's of the heart. And what makes an oak so strong is it drives a taproot vertically to a source of water before it ever sends out horizontal roots. And so it has that, it sends its heart all the way down to a source, to a purpose and meaning. And when we have that purpose and meaning for our lives and our heart is connected to it, nothing like an oak tree, we can't be taken down. So that word courage is that strength of the oak. And then on the flip side is compassion. And I love that word compassion because passion comes from a word meaning suffering, the passion of the Christ, pathology. The root is suffering. And most of us are suffering because of others, or we're suffering, like we own their suffering from a place of empathy. Empathy means, you're owning that suffering. Compassion means suffering with. Calm means with. Passion means suffering. So when you come from a place of compassion, you're no longer suffering because of someone or situations, you're suffering with them. And you can bring that compassion and that grace to yourself while still being 100% all in with your heart. So courage, compassion, strength of the oak, strength of the willow. That's where that title came from.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Where's the
Yeah.
best place for our listeners to pick up a copy?
Well, there's this new bookstore called Amazon that just launched, and they sell great books.
I've
So does
heard
Barnes
that.
and Noble. Yeah. Yeah. But if you go to Amazon, you can find it there. I just a couple of weeks ago released the Audible version in my own voice, which was fun. So you got it on Audible, you got the Kindle digital version, paperback, hard copy. Amazon's the best place to find the book.
What was the process like of recording that? I've heard, got some friends that couple handfuls of friends that have written books, and some have opted to record their own audibles, and some have opted to hire like a professional who does that, for varying reasons. Curious, what was your experience like in recording that? Do you think you'll do that again on your next book?
Yeah. Well, you pay in the publishing process, they will give you a professional voice artist to read your book. Like I paid for that. But my coach and the publisher said, we think you need to do it. I'm like, oh, I mean, all that time, like I could have a professional. They said, no, you're the coach. You speak for a living. This is your story. If anyone else tells it, and all of a sudden I have to get over all my insecurities about my voice and I just have to own it. And so I built a soundproof recording studio in our bonus room with a mattress, with some memory foam and blankets, and this cute little sewing desk that I pulled out of our master bedroom. My wife was mad at me for 2 months. And I made this soundproof recording thing, and I open up the bottom and crawl through this blanket, and I'd sit down, and when the kids were in bed at night, and I would read my book. And at this point, you've read your book so many times, to bring that original passion, that voice, I had to fall in love with it as a listener and a reader. And I had to put myself in their shoes. And it actually was a really cool process. And I would recommend, unless you have serious voice problems, I would recommend that, the author should always read their book.
Yeah, it tends to be. I don't know. I tend to like it better when the author reads their book, for sure. There are some of those professional voices, like you said, that and some of them are great, but
Mm-hmm.
the reality is it always seems to be most enjoyable when the
Yeah.
author is reading their own book.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, all right, guys. So Amazon.com or Barnes and Noble or wherever you buy your books, sounds like there's plenty of places to get it. Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow. And Andrew, before we sign off today, is there anywhere besides the book, obviously, uh, is there anywhere people should who might want to like contact you, whether that's for coaching or just to kind of like see what you're doing, maybe follow on your like see where you're speaking
Yeah.
at? Is there like a central website or something for people to go to or
Yeah.
social media page?
Yeah. I'm going to give them three simple ways. AndrewLAnderson.com is my website. So Andrew L. Anderson is spelled ON at the end.com. Social media at Andrew L. Anderson 85. And then the last thing is if your people want to reach out to me directly, we got a gift that we'd like to share with them. Again, they got two options. I'm going to let it be a surprise, but there's two things I'd like to share with you. So they can email me, Andrew at andrewlanderson.com. Just put Kevin in the subject line, and we'd love to share a gift or two with your listeners.
Awesome, man. We'll put all those links and stuff in the show notes.
Perfect.
So if you're driving around right now or whatever, don't feel like you got to write that down. Just go back to the show notes,
Yeah.
and you'll have them there to reference. So, Andrew, thanks for taking the time out today to be a guest on the podcast and share your story with us. We really appreciate it, man.
Privilege. Thank you for the opportunity, Kevin.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week on the Next Level Agents podcast. Have a good one.